of the Bengal Chamber of Commerce and Industry, BCCI, here in Bangalore. So we will start the Precursor Session, that is what the investors look into. And we have with us in this session, the session will be moderated by Mr. C.N. Raghupati, Founder Director, Manipal Innovation Leadership and Entrepreneurship School, Mr. Anirudh A. Damani, Managing Partner, Artha Venture Fund, Mr. Anil Joshi, Managing Partner, Unicorn India Ventures, Mr. Deepak Daftari, Mentor IT Entrepreneurs and E-Commerce Committee, BCCI, and Mentor Rebel, BCCI Tech Incubation Center, and Director and CEO, DD Web Vision Private Limited. Mr. Mohit Gulati, Founder, ITI Growth Opportunities Fund. Mr. Harinarayan Sharma, CEO, Manipal Foundation, Senior Vice President, MEMG, Manipal Education and Medical Group. Mr. Manoj Kumar Agarwal, Founder and Managing Partner, CFund. I would request the panelists and the moderator to please join us on the dais. We are expecting Sri Babul Shukriya, Honorable Minister in Charge, Information Technology and Electronics Department, Government of West Bengal, to join us. So when the Minister in Charge joins us, he'll join us on the dais. I would also request the President of the Bengal Chamber, Mr. Shubhit Chakraborty, to please join us on the dais. We need a microphone on the dais, please.
Good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
I think a little louder.
Good morning.
So good. I think the coffee is quite strong, so in case anybody needs a pick-me-up. So good morning, my name is Raghu and I will be the moderator. Thank you, Angana, for making me the moderator for the session. I think she chose somebody who is not a warrior in the game of startups. Because if you see what happens, any of the epics or any of the wars, they are recounted by people who are not actually fighting on the battlefield. So maybe the person who is not so knowledgeable about it becomes the warrior. Okay. So anyway, we have a star-studded panel here, and people who have really, made a lot of investments. They have made very good investments, led the world of investing in startups, and I think we let them contribute what they have to say. A little bit about where I come from, which is Manipal Innovation Leadership and Entrepreneurship School. About a year or two back, we found that entrepreneurship, while it was a sort of wild west, there was a need for a proper training. And Hari then enthused me in saying, it was his vision, in saying that can we sort of look at having a very structured approach to developing entrepreneurs. So we do have a 5-level approach, and that 5-level approach is starting from enthusing students to be entrepreneurs, to giving them the foundation course, to giving them the verticals, to then making them do the business plan, and then taking them to the investment. And this was Hari's vision, and he'll speak a little bit about it. So let us start with the topic for today. What do investors look for? So to my colleague panelists, I would have 3 questions, and we will start with the first round. The first question would be, what do you as an investor look for from the perch that you come? We have had, over the last 2 years, I have seen many startup entrepreneurs coming in thinking that the entrepreneur, the investor is looking for a certain set of things. The most commonest thing that most entrepreneurs make a mistake is that they say, if you put this much, your equity is going to become so much. Is that what investors are looking for? I'll let the panel answer. The second is, which we will finish after the first round, and maybe we'll have a few questions going to and fro. The second is, how important is provenance or geography? I had a boss long back in life called Rupen Roy, and when he used to try and sell Price Waterhouse to the rest of India, he used to say geography is history. And is geography history, or does geography really matter? The reason I'm bringing that up is because today this particular seminar is on an important mission as to how to get Bengal startup up and running. So does geography really matter, or how do investors look at it? The third question, which will be the last question, would be, if you were to tell your younger selves, what are the few things that you would not do? How would you sort of look at it? So, with that in mind, I think let us get started, and I would request you, maybe you can introduce yourself as you take the mic. So, why don't you get started?
So in terms of the format, I think it won't make sense for all of us to take all the 3 questions, because then
You can take the first question.
So we can take like one of them, and then the others can sort of take the others, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think the first question.
The first question, I think, probably is general.
Yeah. So my request is, the first question, like a rapid fire round, all of you can have 3 minutes as to, as investors, what do you look at?
It's one of those really difficult questions, and I wish there was like a one-line answer to it, because investing in a startup is sum of total parts. There are so many things that you're looking at, right from. So it's like a little bit of a sum of total parts. You're looking at what is the startup into? Is there a problem large enough for it to be existent? Are the other people who are building it really incredible people, right? I think that passion is the first thing almost all of us unanimously as investors look at. I am of the thumb rule that some of the greatest ideas, if mediocre set of people are trying to implement them, there's definite failure available there. And even some very simple, easy ideas, if done by good people, they can actually turn out to be great businesses. Case in point, we invested in a business called Ecom Express way back in 2012. And this is logistics, right? 50-year-old founders, each one of them was above 50. And when we invested, our call was, is this the best founding team who understands logistics? Between the 150 years of experience that they had, they seem to be a great team just for that. So I think it's, I know I'm sort of digressing from your core question, but it's a bunch of things. I would like to start off by saying the people, for me, are priority number one, and the others can sort of add their bits to it. So yeah, that's my answer. Sure. Hi guys. I think some of you know me. I'm Mohit Gulati. I run IT and Growth Opportunities Fund. We're an early stage venture capital fund. I'm now in my fund 2 I was an angel investor earlier from 2012 to 2016, 17. Then moved it into an institutional practice. And yeah, thank you.
So, I think Mr. Gulati is being modest. Those of you, you can go into his LinkedIn profile and the investments and the number of boards and advisories he sits on is longer than anybody's body part or whatever. It's a long list. You can see it on LinkedIn, and we are very happy to have you here. So your people matter is a very extremely good hypothesis, because I think that's what most investors look for. So Hari represents is one of those unique people on this panel, in the sense that he comes from a very strong. Manipal Group is very strong operationally. They are into education, and we are into education and healthcare. And obviously, from there to get into investing, where possibly the control over the actual operations has to be left to the entrepreneur, is a very interesting exercise. And also, there are areas in which the Manipal Group operates. So I leave it to him. He has been a part of many of the large investments. I leave it to him to describe a little bit about what he looks for as an investor, because he has the unique advantage that we are not looking for limited partners, etc. So, with those advantages, what are the constraints? What is he looking for? And maybe a little bit about how your vision for Minds came up. While I'm executing it for you, it was your vision.
Good morning. Thank you, Raghu. I hope I'm audible. Yeah. So, I'm Hari, as Raghu mentioned. We've been with the group for about 18 years. Still part of the old school where we stick to organizations. Been a long journey from corporate finance in Tata Steel to investment banking in ILFS and M&A in hospitals and now foundation. So the last 30-40 years of experience has given me the ability to look at a breadth of areas in corporate life, and now looking at how some of the learnings of corporate life can be brought to a social platform is a good journey as I walk towards seeing what I can do which is more satisfying. So that's the journey. I've been fortunate to be part of this group where we have witnessed a transformation of a family office, typically a family business, into a corporate structure. And that has a lot to do with the way we as a group look at investments. And this has been a 70-year-old institution. But when Dr. Ranjan Pai took over as chairman in 2004 at the leader of the group, he decided one thing very clear, that there must be a segregation between ownership and management. He said an owner cannot be a manager, because then you will have a conflict intrinsically between saying, what does it mean to create value for a shareholder, and what does it mean to be accountable for a shareholder? You can't be the same. You can't be sitting on the same side of the table and saying, hey, this went right because I did so and so, and this is right from a shareholder's perspective. So, very clear articulation of ownership and management became a difference. And that has led to where we today are increasingly becoming an investor, is to say, where do I bank my money on? Who's the right person who will drive and create value for me as a shareholder? So just to take on from where Mohin said, person is the key. And whether the person knows the subject, of course, is important. But more importantly, is his credibility, preceding him by 10 yards? In terms of, is he somebody whom I can trust upon when I am putting my money on him? But if there is a faintest doubt, and as one Mr. Hari Menon of Big Basket said one thing, he said, he's somebody whom I should never look back to see whether he's running behind me. That's the level of trust that you have on the person on whom I'm banking the money. And so should be my co-founder, because he's an equal runner with me in this race. So for me, the first, very clearly endorsed belief from Mohan, is that the person is very key. I think the other dimension I would like to take is, while investors may want 20 things from the investee, very clear clarity has to be there in terms of what is the investee looking for from the investor. Because if these two are not aligned, then we have a marriage which is ab initio, on the rocks right from beginning. Because my expectation from the investor is just not money. I want him to be a partner in this whole journey. I want him to be understanding what my ups and downs are. Will he be there when there is a crisis to hold me, or is he going to push the pressure button when things go awry? Which is what we have seen over the last so many years, that when there is a panic, everybody deserts the boat. So an investor is somebody, if it was his own money, will never desert his boat unless he is convinced that it is a write-off. So the first thing that we need to understand is not what the investor looks for. What is the investee looking for from the investor is the first condition that we must be very, very clear. The second dimension is, from an investor looking at an investee, is, does he know what are the levers that are necessary to drive the business? Because I may be having a very good 10,000 feet vision of what does it mean to do in business. But does he know how, when the pen hits the paper, what are the 10 things that really create value? What are the 10 things that really drive down cost? What are the revenue drivers? And we have seen a lot of these early stage startups, and Mohit would have seen, and all my collective panel members would have been seen. Many of them struggle in defining those key parameters, and that's the time when a lot of time, money goes wasted. Then it's too late to catch up. And from the investor viewpoint, he will have no other option but to say, okay, look, hey guy, I think you are missing the boat, let me get somebody else to drive your business. So knowing what are the key levers to drive the business, I think is very key from an assessment perspective. So when we look at investment, you are saying, does he know what are the 5 levers that are important? Otherwise, he is not the right horse to bank upon. So in my view, these are very key when I am looking at credibility of the person, alignment with the investor's vision, and this is also very important. All of them who manage funds work with a mandate of people who have invested in them, saying, I need a 5-year horizon, 7-year horizon. Is that in alignment with my business? I may be into a business which is into a longer period for which it is to mature. But if these two timelines are not aligned, then we are again catching the wrong train. So in my view, these are critical parameters which I would look for, both from an investor viewpoint and how, as an investee, I would look at an investor.
Thank you, Aaron. I'll come back to you because there are some questions on domain which possibly you are the best person to answer. So, Deepak, it's great having you on the panel. You are the, in a sense, the Karta Dharta of this entire thing, being the head of the BCCI, West Bengal government incubation platform. So, and you also run your own venture apart from being an investor. So how is it to wear both the hats? Because you're not only an investor but also run your own company, and you are also in charge of an incubator. So, and also you are being involved in the good cause of trying to develop entrepreneurs. So tell us your experience. How do you think investors look at investing into something?
Thanks, Raghu. Good morning to all of you. So I bring the perspective, being in the August gathering of VCs who typically write checks. The starting check is worth a few crores, and they run funds from 300 crores to 1,000 crores. And me being the odd man out, being the angel investor who writes checks in lakhs. The key learnings or the thing which I learned early enough was that most of the problems either have been solved or are in the process of being solved, unless and until it's a very uncommon market. I'll give an example during our discussion. But the first thing which I look at when I meet an entrepreneur who's coming to me for that first check, I come at the stage after the 3 F's, which is the friends, families and fools. After they have crossed that barrier hurdle, I'm the next fool in the line who writes the check, typically gives him his first 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs. So I think the deepest risk is where I stand at. The first thing I look at is the passion of the person. The guy who made me learn this was a gentleman from Calcutta, a young guy, 27-year-old guy called Sagar Daryani, who started Wow Momo. And when I first spoke to him, that was the time when I started looking at investing seriously, was the passion of the guy. We've all eaten momos, but here was a guy who said, I will package momos as McDonald's sells burgers. And he had a vision that how would he go in stages. That taught me early enough that passion and a very clear head is very important, which will either make or break an investor. It might sound preachy, but after so many years, after almost 10 years, it still holds true. So that's the first key quality I look at very seriously. Second thing which I learned from the startups which have failed, where I lost in the checks I wrote, was whether the investor is really open to your ideas, to your experience, or he wants to repeat the same mistakes you've made and he wants to still reinvent the zero. See, taking money and getting funding from the VCs on this table, I'm sure most of them will agree, is the easiest part. Surviving with the VCs, listening to them and aligning their vision with the experience of the VC is the toughest part, because as somebody who started 3 of my own ventures, we consider our ventures as our babies. Listening to somebody's practical advice might not always be the brilliant idea which we would have in our head, but listening to somebody's experience, listening to somebody who's done there, been there, and who's met thousands of entrepreneurs, I think that adds a lot of value. So that's the second quality. And the third key matrix which I apply, which has held me in good stead, is whether the problem is unique enough and has a big enough market size for it to become a global company. Case in point, Anirudh and me invested in a company called Agnikul at a very low valuation, which was into space tech. And it was a sum-zero game. The plan, the venture they were doing would either fail and all the investors would lose even the last penny. But if someday they would succeed in the vision they had, it probably would be a unicorn in the very near future. So for me, most of my investments are in that category, which have a solution which is large enough that the payday is very big, because I assume that 60% of my investments will anyways fail. So that's the key matrix I also look at, that one payday or that two big paydays is going to cover my losses and give me more money to invest in the other ventures. So these are the three qualities I look at, because my money is my hard-earned money and it's limited, unlike the funds which have access to a lot of tools. So this is how I have developed my investment theory over a period of time.
You know, our money is also fiduciary money, so we
No,
equally. I mean, my money.
The point in case is that you have your risk diversified over, let's say, 50 companies. My risk is diversified over 5 companies. So the percentage wise, yeah.
So, Anirudh, if I may call you that, and your profile is extremely interesting. You know, I really like the power sector work you did in Texas, which had a lot of work which, you know, I could relate to a lot of that. And I think you should be Oyo the money or whatever it is, because you are one of the first people who sort of.
I hope it becomes Agnikul the money.
Well, for now we will be Oyo the money. So, so if you see Mr. Damani's profile, public profile, it's pretty interesting, and a lot of good investments. And so, would you like to take us through how you sort of spotted Oyo, what do you look for as an investor, what do you sort of, what are the few key things that you say, okay, I want to give this guy a hearing, or you say that this guy is no good, I just, you know, let him have a cup of coffee, you just meet him and say, okay, how's the weather, have a cup of coffee and you can leave.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ragupati, and you know, it's been a very interesting listening to everyone. So first of all, I think it's not my role or job to decide whether an entrepreneur is good or not. I think all entrepreneurs are taking an incredible risk. It is it is the most thrilling and the most scariest roller coaster ride of your life that you take on as an entrepreneur. And if you want to make it scarier, become a fund manager. But to put it into perspective, I think last night I sort of gave you the 4 principles of my investing. I think it's been something that it's taken about 10, 12 years to come. But prior to becoming an investor, and fund manager, I was an investor where I invested personal capital, and prior to that I was an entrepreneur. And I started my career actually as a door-to-door salesman in Texas. I used to knock on 100 doors a day and selling power, long-term power contracts to homeowners, then eventually business owners. And I got my first taste for business when I was selling power to SMEs across the US. I had 14 offices and roughly about 500 salespeople door-to-door that I managed. And I think that was really the time that I understood how to sell. And if you look at the Artha portfolio, we run 3 funds, we manage upwards of 1,000 crores at this point, and we've got fairly good investments that we've made. We focus only on one thing, which is revenue, right? We don't like with my 4 principles in investing that we talked about last night, number 1 was, are you solving a real human problem, right? And we talked about how, we're sometimes chasing things that don't exist, problems that are good to have but not need to have. And if they're not need to have problems, then people would not want to pay for them at a price at which they would be able to make, where you would be able to make a profit. Because eventually price is a function of value. And if you don't deliver value, you're not going to get the price. Right? And always value has to be more than price. And third is, what's your moat? How long will it take somebody else to, copy and do exactly what you're going to do? And if you don't have a 6 to 9 month, at least, headway in front of everybody else, it's very difficult for us to be able to, say that there is enough more to give you a valuation of that. And last thing is, we don't like businesses. I'm not a guy I'm not a techie. I have the latest tech gadgets because I'm an enthusiast. But if you start asking to write code, probably would, my eyes would glaze over. But I believe technology is always the enabler. Once you've figured out what your business model is going to be, then you know what technology to build. Far often I see that techies fall in love with the technology and then they try to fit the customer into the product, right? Versus the product into the customer. And that's where I think when you ask that what are the things that I like about founders, and if I look at Oyo, when Ritesh pitched to us, I think he was 18 years old. I was, at that time, would have been about 29. And so we were the 2 youngest guys in the room at that moment. And when he pitched, he was pitching an idea to say this, at that time, Airbnb was very new in India. He was going to build a corporate Airbnb. So home stays for people that travel a lot, but for corporates. And he said his idea was, give me 3 crores, I'll go make the entire country a corporate Airbnb. And that company was called Oravel, by the way. Right, Oravel stays. And there was no idea, there was not a single, there was a website that didn't work, but there was a website, right? And he said, listen, we're going to make this thing happen. We said, listen, forget about all of India. Where do you live? He goes, I live in Delhi. I said, do you know Gurgaon? In 6 months, can you become the king of Gurgaon? That when somebody comes to Gurgaon, right, and somebody says that I want to go for a homestay, they know that Oravel is the place to go. And all credit to him. We put some very strict, because 18-year-old, right, I checked his driver's license in the meeting, because he looked younger than 18. He didn't have any facial hair. Like, this guy, what are we investing in? And we just told him, we'll give you 30 lakhs, or 35 lakhs we gave him. And you just focus on becoming the king of Gurgaon for the next 6 months. And credit to him, he took that advice, and he actually became one of the top homestays in Gurgaon in 6 months. And once he figured that out, then the money came from Lightspeed, which then took it global. And then obviously after Lightspeed came, all the other Sequoias and the Green Oaks and SoftBank and all that. And then when we exited at over $1 billion valuation at the time, it was the largest angel exit and the fastest angel exit that had happened. We felt a sense of pride, because what we did with him, and which is my advice to all founders as I end my piece, is don't chase investors, chase money, but don't chase the money from investors, chase the money from customers. Because when you're chasing customers, investors will chase you, right? Because when you have revenues, nothing beats any argument than saying, whatever, like if I'm in a meeting and I'm giving my gyan, because as you say in investing, right, if you go to ask for money, they give you gyan. If you ask for gyan, they'll give you money, right? So when you, if I'm giving somebody a lot of gyan ki nahi model itna acha nahi hai, and the guy says, I have 1 crore monthly sales and I am EBITDA profitable or profitable, I will keep my mouth shut, because nothing answers any query like revenue. So focus on chasing money from customers, don't focus on chasing money from investors, and the 4 principles of investing are already given. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. Just to close out on that before we invite the Honorable Minister, I think the 2 investments you talked about, there was a common theme. Yesterday we saw a lot of IT, but most of the investments today are IT plus OT, information technology plus operational technology. In the sense the human element cannot be taken away. Be it Swiggy or be it OYO, be it power technology where operational technology plays an important role. So if being a technologist, if somebody says that IT is going to give me my entire solution, I would rather have a hard look at it and say, is that so? Because most solutions, being a technologist, are an IT plus OT solution. So we'll take a small break here. Angana, you want to... Angana?
Thank you, Mr. Raghupati. As we mentioned, we were expecting Mr. Babul Shokriyo, Honorable Minister in charge Information Technology and Electronics Department of West Bengal. He is also the Minister in charge of Tourism Department. We would request the Honorable MIC to please join us on the dais, and I would request the President of the Bengal Chamber to please join him too.
So, Mr. Joshi, sorry for the small break. So, would you like to introduce yourself and...
Would be listening from. Honestly speaking, it's very difficult to speak after Rocket Kamani.
Even the mics have gotten spoiled because Anil is not speaking.
So good morning. Challenging task, but before I share my views, first of all, big congratulations to BCCI team for organizing this wonderful event, and more so, doing in Bangalore and not in home turf. So congratulations to all you. So my colleagues on dais have already shared about view. I don't think I have more to add to it, but I actually will give you a different perspective. For me, when I am looking for investment, it's an Indian arranged marriage, right? Where you have a chance to look at boy or girl, and then finally you get married, and there is no divorce, right? Typically, like what we see here. In our case, if it is a divorce, then money going down the tube. So it's an Indian arranged marriage. So you need to live with entrepreneur for 5, 7, and for some guys maybe 10 years. I think Deepak is here, who's an angel investor, can even stay for 15 years. But as a fund, we have a life to live. We have money to return. So we would like to get associated with people whom we at least can talk every day or every week or every month. So certainly it's in a quality of people who matters, right? As rightly told by Anirudh, I think all entrepreneurs are star entrepreneurs. Like even taking a decision to get started is a big thing in life, because before that I think they had some well-paying job, and getting out of their comfort zone and getting started is a big task, right? You don't know whether you will be able to find that first paying customer. You don't know whether you will be able to build the product. You don't know whether would you get invested or not, right? Whether banks will look at you or not. Too many challenges. So I believe every horse is good horse. What matters is who's riding that horse. So jockey is one, right? So for us, people matters a lot. I still remember it was early 2000 when there was nothing called startup. In fact, it all started in mid, to 2015 time when nation started talking about, startup India, stand up India. But I made my first investment in early 2000, and that was in renewable space. India is a blessed country, a lot of sunlight, and that time there was a policy announcement around solar, and I got excited and I invested in a venture which was basically helping building solar ACs, so air conditioning by using solar energy. So they were using a combination of thermal and solar and delivering, making room cooler. And a good scientist, right? But unable to commercialize, as rightly told by Anirudh, it actually takes a lot of energy to find your first customers. So we did invested, I lost money, but lost money on something when I landed up investing in opportunity, right? Rather than looking at a person. So I still remember the day, when Mumbai Angel started 2006, and the very first investment was a company called Coach. And the objective was to, and those were the days when SMS was the only feature. And there were a few lucky who had BlackBerry, but the phone what we had was only SMS. And this entrepreneurs all from IITs came back from US, started this company, got funded, and their objective was to enable people do what you do on web using Google to find something. Can you do through SMS, right? And it was very appropriate because you started moving out. You don't have web connection as today we have. We're talking about 5G, and that actually sound very interesting. So landed up investing company called Coach. And as phones become smarter, networks became smarter, and the solution which they had built actually became irrelevant. Now, quite obvious, you invested in a company which is enabling you to search through SMS, is bound to fail because there's no business, right? But it is founder who actually took a challenge and pivoted their business. And the second business was to enable retailers. So they built a solution for retailers to use mobile technology, considering the way smartphones were coming out. And incidentally, that also didn't fly because that time they still didn't have a good network. So again, the second idea was also, what not working for them. And the mobile technology was, changing very fast, and they landed up building, a platform which helped advertisers, stream advertisement on smartphones. So today, if you see any, advertisement on your phone, probably it's through a company called InMobi. So Coach became InMobi, and proud to say this is the first unicorn from India, and have made a lot of money for every single year. I'll add more. So InMobi, started having operations in China, in US, in other parts of the world, and then they came, with another piece of, product, and which again became unicorn under name, Glance, right? So if you land up looking up a good entrepreneur, they will ensure that even if business, no business, they will find a way to solve a problem, and then you can build a healthy business. So one, of course, people matters to us a lot. Second, if market is not large enough, people like us probably may not find opportunity to be investable. So for a VC or even for angel investor, you can only have your mojo if opportunity is large enough, right? If you are entering into a company maybe at 100 crore valuation, and if it doesn't appreciate, you will not make return on your investment. And it can only appreciate if there is a large enough market for you to grow. So scale is important. Red team, we have already spoken. Do they have IP? Right? Anirudh has stressed a lot about building a moat. Technology should be enabler, but whether that technology has any moat or not, whether they have an IP or not, it's very important, right? Because overnight businesses get copied, and you're still having very nice idea, but still, no room to execute. So there has to be some, IP, because we have very small window of, performance of around 5, 6, 7 years. Last, not the least, as an investor, I'm sure, all of my colleagues on DIAS will agree that it's very important, whether we can exit from that company or not. I still remember invested in a company, again 2007, and that company was solving problem for pharma companies and stockists, right? And quite large, business, around 1 lakh crore kind of, transaction happened between pharma industry and stockist, and then below, to retailers and then consumers. And we got an offer to exit at 200 crore valuation. We had invested at a 10 crore valuation those days. Nowhere you can get 20x kind of return so early. And unfortunately, entrepreneur was not willing to provide exit, and we got stuck. Ultimately, we did exited in that company where we could have made 20x. We finally landed up making 1.15x. Right, so it's very important for an investor not only to identify good person, good market, good opportunity, but can we exit or not, right? Had people not found Narayan Murthy, probably would not have Infosys and would not have seen the kind of millionaire and billionaire we have made it. So these are few parameters which are very important for us. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Joshi. I think you have been pretty modest. You didn't introduce yourself. He was, I would say, one of the founders of Mumbai Angels. It's very difficult to crowdsource funds. And Mr. Joshi, I think the other thing that was pretty interesting is that you started your career, or early part of your career, with a phenomenal institution called Century Rayons, the BK Birla Group. And the reason I mentioned that was we are all here from the Bengal Chamber of Commerce. And at one point in time, maybe 100 years back, Bengal was like Bangalore. So the Birlas were there, and the Pata system of accounting came up in Calcutta. Almost all the old companies have their headquarters in Calcutta. And well, that was the time. So before we go to the next question, which is very topical, and I'm very happy that the Honorable Minister has joined us. So the next question is, how much does provenance and geography matter? But I think since you are here, if you can set a context to that for about 2-3 minutes, or 5 minutes, or whatever you want to take, and that will be very good.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, dignitaries on the stage. They're all famous enough, you all know who they are. They've all spoken yesterday beautifully, and I'm sure it has been a good session from the morning. A couple of minutes that I have missed. My better half is singing, so today being Kishore Kumar's birthday, I had to give a lot of radio interviews from different other countries like South Africa and all that. They call, the radio stations call that. I was awake till about 4:50 in the night. So that's the happy hour yesterday night. Those are the happy hours, though I am a teetotaler. So thank you so much. It's been a great experience since last evening. I would like to thank BCCI and all the VCs and everyone else who have actually take out their precious time. You are all investors, so thank you so much for investing your time into this conference. It has been an enlightening one, and the only thing that I can say is that with due respect and a lot of love for Bangalore, I can definitely say that this place is definitely saturated, if not super saturated. So the glass is not only full. You can see the precipitation, there getting accumulated in the bottom of the glass. So bring that to Kolkata. Bring that to Kolkata. That's the place to be. We are ready to take the next step forward under the leadership of our Chief Minister. Don't believe the media. The media has to sell heartbreaking news. It's not breaking news, it's heartbreaking news. So, and heartbreaking news is something that really sells. You have to sell hard. We all have investors, we know how aggressive we need to be with their products when you're advertising. So that's the exact job that media does. So don't believe the media. We have a fantastic working environment and cost of living, etc. Everything in Kolkata is much lower than what it could be in Bangalore. Trust me, I've had coffee outside of the hotel. Here everything is being sponsored by BCCI, but it costs you a lot to have a coffee in Bangalore everywhere. So, that the same coffee you can get in Kolkata at a much cheaper price. I'm saying that because the smart guys with smartphones and smart ideas, they live on coffee for the early part of the day. So come to Kolkata. It's a place, like the Bengal Silicon Valley. We have a great IT policy in place. We have the Bengal Silicon Valley. We have 22 IT parks all over West Bengal, where you can get land at a very cheap price. I could say that the small example would be Bengal Silicon Valley, which is at the heart of not at the throbbing heart of Calcutta, I would say, because you cannot build a new city inside a city like Bombay. Bandra Kurla complex actually got built in an area which was actually a swamp. So we have that Sector 5, Sector 3 and all of that, where the IT companies and many of you have built your offices there. A lot of people are already in Kolkata. So there the cost of land is 25 crores per acre. But we have been giving away that lands for the last several years at the cost of 5 crores per acre. So that's 20% of what the cost price is. And then you have quite a few years, 3 years, to actually start your venture and do all of that. So you will find new space, new air, new levels of pollution, new kind of traffic, new kind of food. So everything would be new, and when you have new ideas, it's important to move to new geographical destinations. So come to Bengal. If there is any problem, I have a fantastic principal secretary with me, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, one of the brightest minds and IPS officers that we have in the country, I would say. He is a very disciplined man. He sleeps at a particular time, wakes up at early morning, but I sleep at 5 o'clock, or maybe sometimes at 4 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So someone in the ministry is always awake. We are working 24 hours. So in our ministry, the city never sleeps. And I saw a lot of, since yesterday, I've really realized after meeting the youngsters, after hearing what the venture capitalists who have actually put their money into risky things and then made something out of it and helped a lot of other people generating employment and all of that. See, there is what I have learned in life. I would like to believe I'm not that old, but there is nothing really called something called a right decision. You take a decision and then you do everything to make it right. I think that is because every idea is a ray of light. If you have it, write it down in your diary, because it's not going to stay with you for long. You'll forget about it. That's how human mind works. So yesterday, a lot of youngsters came up with ideas, but then you are lucky enough that you had some great minds telling you where probably you are going wrong, where you are moving into utopian areas, where your dreams are probably a little too big. If on a lighter side, in my dreams I played, I got married to Drew Barrymore and I had a couple of children with her, but it did not happen in real life, so I did not invest any of my time in there. So I am very happy that yesterday many of these youngsters got a direction, a vision about what they could do, which is a great idea, and which are the ideas that you couldn't chase. I found a lot of value added advice from Mr. Raghupati, who's of course a doyen in this arena, and on this dais and even in front of me, there are minds who have you have not only excelled in your own areas, but you have the capability to make others excel with your experience. There's a thing that experience is, youth is wasted in the young. It's a famous saying by, I think, Winston Churchill. Youth is wasted in the young, because as you grow older, you lose your hair in your business. Nothing, please don't take it otherwise, but you do lose your hair into business. It's not personally against you. So you lose your hair to the business, you gain experience. But as you gain experience, your age increases. So what happens if, at his age, He's young, but at his age, he gets his youth back. I'm sure he's going to create some wonderful ventures. So these youth who came yesterday, you're very lucky that you have the youth on your side. You are young, and you have the experience who can help you out in finding your own, own calling in life. So just make a call, and I would tell you that the information technology electronics minister, me, or the information technology electronics ministry in Kolkata, as I said, is a 24-hour venture. It's, in short, the abbreviation, I don't use it, the acronym, because it makes the acronym is ITEM. It's Information Technology, Electronics and Ministry, so it's ITEM. But I think that's, yeah, so I don't use it because my wife also acknowledges that I am an item in my home place. So I don't use that, but I can say that's one item that you should chase. Come to Calcutta, that's an item on which you can invest, and we'll do everything we can do to help you make Bengal the next destination. And don't believe the media, because they are selling heartbreaking news. Anything which is good will not find a space, because that doesn't break your heart. So that's hard selling. So do it in Kolkata, come there, we'll try to treat you in the best way possible. It's a Mishti land. You're going to find it's going to be a dilemma for you to decide whether you want to invest in Rasgulla or in Chaldish. It's like that. So please do come. It's been a great adventure here. Yes, I do have prior commitments in Kolkata today. My better half will have to deliver in a couple of places today, because it's Kishore Kumar's birthday, so I'll have to be a singer for the rest part of the day. So that's a great thing. So I might have to leave while this discussion is on, because my flight is at 12, but 12:15 rather. But please carry on with your ideas. Please carry on with the destination, and I would love to hear as many as many answers to the question that he has about geography and everything else that goes with it. And yes, I think that BCCI is already famous and in its own way, and in the coming years we will have more such meets where young bright minds are going to meet, experience young men at their prime of their careers. Thank you so much once again.
Honorable Minister, I think my new calling was to be a Bhishma Pitama to the Arjunas. So it's not necessary that you find new things to do, but if you can guide the Arjuns of the world to find new things to do or fight new battles, I think that itself is a payback in itself.
You know, this Arjun and what he said, Dronacharya, I think something that I've been saying whole night yesterday, that my relationship with Kishore Kumar is Dronacharya and Ekalavya, because I never got to meet him. But I learned him, I got training from him from a distance. But with my grandfather from whom I learned my music, it's Ekalavya and Arjun. So many of you will not find Dronacharya in your real life, but you can find Dronacharya and be the Ekalavya. And if you follow these kind of Dronacharyas are not going to ask the thumb away from you. Rather, if you follow their ideas, you'll get a thumbs up in life. That's what it is.
Sir, if you're going to try and make it for the flight, I think you should leave now.
I obviously lied about the flight time. It's at 1:15.
So we'll do a very quick round and start with you. So the provenance question: how much does geography from where the idea how much does the geography from where the idea came matters, or where the entrepreneur is located?
I'll take a slightly more philosophical sort of answer to this one. You should all read the book called The Prisoners of Geography by Tim Marshall. It's a very beautiful book which will sort of summarize everything that's right and wrong in the world and how geography is to blame for it. So even in the startup world, we can blame or we can duck behind geography. But the fact of the matter is, I think there is an information asymmetry in geography in India. Right? So as you go from a tier 1 city, which is say Bangalore, right? Let's say Bangalore and anything around Bangalore. The further away you go, the lack of information is where the problem is. It's not the physical geography. It's about the fact that it's not you don't have that ecosystem of people around you who are willing to talk and educate you around those things. So as much as like Mumbai was amongst the first cities where startup ecosystem was bustling, and everybody left Mumbai and came to Bangalore. Right? So if you remember, Ola, Purple, everything else was incorporated in Mumbai, and everyone moved there. So what happens is there are a bunch of factors which play together for geography to go right. One is, of course, there has to be political will to attract talent, which I think Sir is very well put in, that the item ministry is working 24 hours, so there is will to bring people to the geography. Second is, can there be an ecosystem that's nurtured in that geography? Are all the relevant people in that ecosystem willing to sort of participate? And thirdly, when that perfect storm comes in, you'll start seeing investors and everybody else moving in. Let's take the example of Gift City. Right? Gift City is a geography which actually got built out just in the last 1.5 years. But all the necessary things required for that geography to survive and thrive have actually been given. So right from attracting foreign capital to Indian fund managers setting up a shop there, to eventually entrepreneurs also going and incorporating companies from that side, you will see that perfect storm play in. So I think geography in today's day and age doesn't matter as long as you're physically just working out of a place, but access to the right network, access to the right information pool, that is, I think, the key element which is missing in some of the tier 2, tier 3 cities in India, even till date. As much as I'm a big believer, I'm invested in, I think, at least 5 or 6 tier 2 cities that I can think of. There is great talent out there, but there is clearly a lack of information, lack of knowledge sharing, for which that talent needs to come back to a tier 1 city, spend time, and talk to people and interact with people of the same skill. So I hope that sort of answers it.
Yeah, that answers it. And what we are trying to do, for example, what I'm trying to do is to create this course for young budding entrepreneurs before we get them into in front of the investor. It's a 5-level course. Hari, would you like to talk about how geography matters to you?
So I have two views on this. One, what Mohit said in terms of, the information is asymmetry. But I think more is in terms of awareness and the fact that, historically, East of India has been one of the best cradles of human capital, whether it be doctors who have gone abroad to engineers who have done their doctorate. It's been always the cradle of the best of minds there. But in the current age, what I see is that there is a sense of saying, oh, this is something which is not for me. What is happening in the South, there is a sense that, oh, that's only what is relevant in the South. There is a sense of automatically saying that this is not meant for me. And I think it's a mindset issue rather than a real challenge. I was just talking to Mr. Subodh this morning. I think the best way to do something is to get people from the so-called privileged locations to go into Calcutta and talk to entrepreneurs and give them the sense that there's nothing different between what they think and what I think. It's just the question of building the awareness so that this information asymmetry sort of falls away. From an investor viewpoint, I don't think geography really makes a difference. It is, as we discussed earlier, it is the capability of the person and the credibility of the person and the power of the idea which makes that investment work, irrespective of where he comes from. And in this age of technology, really location doesn't make a difference. You are connected, and COVID, fortunately, unfortunately, proved that you can work from anywhere and still get the same effectiveness and far more cost efficiently. Geography has one relevance in terms of there are certain solutions which are very pertinent to that particular geography in terms of a need. And those need not be global enterprises. They can be fulfilling a very topical, local need and still be successful businesses. So I think geography has its advantages because then you can nurture businesses which are relevant there. And you can create them in a manner, in a form where you leverage on the best of expertise which has been tested globally. Would be a good blend of taking the larger to the smaller, which is the local geography, and use the know-how to build large businesses.
Minister sir, would you like to say something about geography?
Well, from Kolkata, places like Singapore and the new markets, emerging markets, and all that is closer. The flight prices are much lesser. So I would say that geographically we're in a better place we are in the eastern side of the country, so the sun rises much earlier than the other cities in the country. So it sets later in Mumbai, but it's great to have the early morning sun rising earlier. So I think geography really doesn't matter. It does matter, but it doesn't matter as well. I've done a show, I've done several shows with Nadeem Shravan, but one show I remember I did a musical show in Cohen in UAE in 1994, and it was absolutely desert. So we didn't know, it was a huge show with all the stars of Salman Khan and everyone there. So while we were being driven to that place, we didn't know where we are being taken, whether our audience are going to be camels, or going to bring their own water, or we are going to get it in the desert, and where exactly we are going. But if you go to Cohen today, it's one of the prime destinations. So they have shown that when you can invest in the right places, geography really doesn't matter. And therefore, I say that geographically, Calcutta is in a very right place. So if you invest there, you can make it happen, because we are there to help you. That's what I want to say.
So Deepak?
So from the perspective of somebody who's been trying to nurture entrepreneurship in Calcutta at the grassroots level over the last 10 years, the Calcutta has every advantage possible. Cost of living is low, the ease of life, ease of doing business, the quality of life, everything works perfectly. The only drawback which I see when it comes to startups is what I call the hive mind philosophy. This is the only drawback which Calcutta has. Calcutta has no dearth of talent. Some of the best engineers, some of the best business minds working in the startup world in Bangalore at the highest possible position, heading these startups, are from Bengal. Some of the best companies who've raised the maximum amount of funding have been from Calcutta, but over a period of time, once invested, they were forced to move by their investors to move to either a Delhi, Mumbai or a Bangalore. The only reason being that the ecosystem is where Bangalore ecosystem was 10 years back. But with the edges of the IT ministry, with the outlook of the minister, with what BCCI is doing, with what NASSCOM is doing, I think the change is coming, it's very pertinent, but over a period of time, once the psychology of having a group to solve your problems, to interact with and have the same philosophy when you sit in the same circle, that needs to be there to create the perfect ecosystem for startups to thrive more in Calcutta. Once that develops, there will be a day when the VCs will not force their investee companies to move out of Calcutta. I'm sure as part of Infosys you will agree that till a few years back, most of the support work used to be done in Calcutta, whereas the real development used to happen in Delhi, Mumbai and Bangalore, but that's not the case anymore. Now the real actual development, the core of the software is actually being done in Calcutta. So things are changing. Only the ecosystem which nurtures the mindset to create a startup or create more startups and make it a fulfilling experience, I think that's what we need to focus more as we go forward.
Yeah, you said it right. So like what Hari mentioned, I think we need to have the mentoring ecosystem and the training ecosystem for entrepreneurs.
I kind of, a little bit disagree with you. I'm trying to not to get intimidated with your mustache style, but to be very honest, I don't agree with that. I just feel that the temperature and everything else of Bangalore, it has immensely made the foreigners biased towards. This is like Pune. If you choose between Mumbai and Pune, you go to Pune. If you want to choose between Kolkata and Bangalore, you choose Bangalore. So geography does matter in this perspective. So don't tell me that Calcutta is as a place where the biggest of the corrupt politicians, they stay in unfortunately Bangalore, and people vote for them. So let me be very harsh about it. So don't tell me that the system here is so clean that you get the governance and your policies and your files and everything moved at a rocket speed. No, I am here in politics for governance because I make my money from music. So the day I feel that I cannot move forward with your ideas, I leave it. So as simple as that. So I don't agree with that. I just feel that the mindset of the investors needs to change. solar AC should come back so that Calcutta can get a little more cooler, and that will make everyone, you probably think that you cannot wear your Armani jacket in Kolkata. That's a problem, but you can do that in Bangalore. I'm being very, very practical without using, very strong terms and all of that. So it's just the mindset. Come to Kolkata, bear the heat a little bit. I'm sure you're going to get that heat is not something that is going to deter you from investing in Kolkata. Problems exist everywhere. It exists everywhere. It's not only in India, all over the world. It's about the scale in which the corruption is done. It's so prevalent in America, but it doesn't come out. But it's done in millions of dollars and billions of dollars. So Bangalore is just geographically in better positions. Like you can walk for your entire day in Norway and not get tired because of the temperature. So that's exactly what it is. So थोड़ा सा अपना mindset भी change करिए. ऐसा नहीं है कि कलकत्ता में से लोग छोड़ के बाकी जगह में आ रहे हैं. We have the best of minds. We Bengalis have this, the superstition that we are one of the most intelligent people in the world. It's a different thing that is almost true. But don't think that way. We have the best of minds. I had Mr. Roy yesterday very gleefully tell me that there's 17 to 20 lakh Bengalis in Bangalore. Why is that? Why is Bangalore hiring on these Bengalis? Why do we have a big? Because you have the minds, you have the bright minds. So they, as you said correctly, that there are so many minds in the top positions in Bangalore and even in the Silicon Valley. See how many great firms are owned by Bengalis and run by Bengalis. So I would like to see 10 years from now, Mr. Roy saying कि अब वो दिन नहीं रहे, Bengalis have moved back to Calcutta. So my goal would be to have 12 lakh of those Bengalis back in Kolkata. So at least the next generation. So please change your mindset. Do not believe the media. What you see, there are 4 untold incidents. That is something that is sold for the entire day. That is not the reality. That is not the reality, because I have been in opposition politics so long, I would have not been alive if everything of that was true. So I think you know the situations of 2014. I was the lone BJP MP there. So please get it straight and get it with a lot of humility. That please don't think this way. Let's make it happen in Kolkata, and geographical barriers should not be a barrier in your minds. Let it be a geographical barrier. It's something that you break with the strong minds that all of you possess. That's something that I really wanted to say. Thank you so much.
So thank you, sir. In fact, just on a very personal note, my initial childhood was spent in Lake Gardens, which was a South Indian area. All of them came back because my father was there building Dum Airport. So Lake Gardens in Calcutta was predominantly a South Indian area, including the Ram Temple, etc. And now, of course, nobody remembers that. But anyway, Mr. Devani, would you like to talk about provenance and what sort of a decision do you take based on that?
Let me also give you a bit of my connection with Calcutta. So after I came back from the US, after I sold my company, my dad sent me to Calcutta and I stayed there for 7-8 months. And I came straight from Texas to Calcutta. We had a construction business there that I looked after. And in fact, my dad's entire Naniyal side I remember going to Nimbutala.
That's what I do.
So I used to buy. Oh wow. And they all moved to Salt Lake, right? And it's very difficult for them to move out. I don't think they will ever leave Calcutta. But just coming back to the topic that we're talking about, I think, see, proximity is power, right? So what does happen with geography is that if you are running a tech company, your first port of call usually is Bangalore. That's because that's where all the techies are, right? If you want, I believe, I'm an investor in Chai Break, by the way, so I've been a seed investor in Chai Break for the last about 4 or 5 years. And I thought at one point, because of Wow Momos and Chai Breaks of the world, that Calcutta had a fantastic opportunity to become the food tech capital. Because food is known, Bengalis are known for food, right? And plus the number of ventures that were coming up, Yellow Slice, I think there was a bunch of these companies coming up in Calcutta. I thought there was a great camaraderie happening between entrepreneurs there. There could be a great opportunity for a food tech company. Look at Wow Momos and what it's done to India. I think if you look at Bombay, Bombay's become sort of a fintech because that's where that's where the stock markets are. That's where if all the finance guys are going to be in Bombay, and all the customers are in Bombay, where should you be setting up your company? In Bombay, right? However, what does happen is that once you become big enough, right, where the geographies are no longer constraining you, then you decide where to set up. Like Maruti, which made Manesar into what it is today, and then got all the ancillary companies to actually show up in Manesar and then supply material to them, right? Even the Japanese have built their own restaurant, they built their own hotel over there. So I think initially the first 1,000 days of building a business is extremely important where you start, because that's where the talent is going to be, right? If you want AI talent, it's going to be in a particular place. The entire generative AI talent in this country can be counted on 2 hands, right? And if that's where they are, then that's where they're going to show up. However, COVID has changed that. Obviously, you can now have an organization that could exist in one location and have spokes in different locations. However, I just come back to the same point again and again. Initially, where you start definitely matters. The cost of living, and I did, yeah. Exactly. I mean, look at Kanpur, right? Kanpur is known for Kanpur, Jamshedpur. I think all these centers were created. The best part about India, I think, compared to, let's say, our neighbor in the north, is that there is no restriction of doing business anywhere in the country. It's amazing about this country. You fly to any place, you take a train to any city, there is wealth across the country. You go to, people, if you remember a few years ago or maybe a decade ago, people in Aurangabad got together and bought 100 Mercedes, right? Tells you how much money was there even in a little city of that. Look at Nasik, look at any city of India, right? And you will find that there are these amazing wealth centers across the country. But when you're starting, it may make sense initially to go to a place where whatever you're building, if you're building space tech today, you have to go to Chennai. Because guess what? IIT Madras is creating that infrastructure for space tech. So all your space tech companies are based out of Chennai, right? So you're going to have that geographical advantage. Pune has an advantage, Hyderabad has an advantage, Calcutta has an advantage. I think and that's going to continue building. Once you become big enough, once you're a Zoho, or once you're a fresh desk kind of a company, then you can sit in the village also and do business. Because then by that time, you are the power and the proximity will come to you, right? So that's my submission on where you start and how you can land up being where you want to be once you become prominent.
Mr. Joshi, can you make it quick, because
This Agni Damani, Agni Pool, right? They always eat away my words, but I think in today's connected world, location doesn't matter, sir, honestly. And statistics says that India actually, progressed 5 years because of pandemic. The way we are connected, location actually doesn't matter at all. My first investment, actually was in Kolkata. 3 entrepreneurs, founders, from IIT Kharagpur, started their business in 4th year and landed a incorporating company in Kolkata. That's where we invested. Though company didn't survive, but rock stars. One actually started another business, have raised millions of dollars and doing great job. Now based out of somewhere in Madhya Pradesh. The second guy joined another company, became part of it in Pune, and that company also gave exit to investors, and the third actually became a very high paying professional. So I think location doesn't matter at all. Probably ours is the only odd fund which doesn't have concentrated investment in Bangalore. Our fund have around 25-30%, but rest of our investments are tier 2, tier 3 city, and our latest investment is happening in Bhubaneswar, right? And it's a woman entrepreneur. Right, so I guess location doesn't matter anymore. Entrepreneurs are like water; they find their way. They find the opportunity. And to be honest, who doesn't know? Actually, Kolkata is the land of opportunity. It has given so many star businessmen out of and different geography they came from, settled there. I think we need to take it forward.
So while location doesn't matter, unfortunately the airport's location matters, Minister. And the Minister has to reach the location to catch the flight. And obviously there's no predicting. One of Bangalore's major failure is, I don't think anybody can write a mathematical equation to to predict when you would reach the airport.
That's a huge geographical disadvantage. Come to Kolkata. You have such great. That's exactly what I was trying to say. That's a huge geographical advantage. Too many successful people, too many techies staying in Bangalore, buying hundreds of Mercedes and Porsches, and you have no place to run them. So come to Kolkata, empty roads, in Salt Lake, enjoy your car. You're spending 1.5 in a Porsche Macan, so drive it at the speed that you can. We will make sure that in the first few months you don't get ticketed. This is absolutely informal. But absolutely, I can say that you are all VCs. So why should geography matter? The pandemic has taught us that the VCs can work through VCs. The VCs can work through VCs. So stay in Bangalore, enjoy the weather, enjoy your car, but do your business in Kolkata with video conferences. That's exactly what the VCs should think about themselves. So that's what it is. And yes, I do have to catch a flight, and the traffic in Bangalore is horrible. So therefore, I'm going back to Kolkata.
So, thank you, Minister. On another note, this today being Kishore Kumar's birthday, may I request the Minister to sing a line or two?
इतनी ताली बजेंगे तो मतलब मेरी सिंगिंग में कोई इन्वेस्टमेंट ही नहीं है। अब जब आपने ताली बजा दिया तो गाने की जरूरत क्या है? So yes, it's Kishore Kumar's birthday. To the small guys, I think this is a very meaningful song. As you grow in life, you will find a lot of criticism. Vivekananda said that every work has to go through 3 stages. Ridicule, opposition, and then acceptance. So you have to, and it's a cycle. So you have to go through many such cycles in life. This is one song that will help you, and this is a great song by Kishore Kumar, R.D. Burman, Anand Bakshi. Won each of them the Filmfare Awards. So I just dedicate it to all those young minds and as an inspirational song. कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, छोड़ो बेकार की बातों में कहीं बीत ना जाए रहना। कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, हमको जो ताने देते हैं हम खोए हैं इन रंग रलियों में, हमने उनको भी छुप छुप के आते देखा इन गलियों में। ये सच है झूठी बात नहीं, तुम बोलो ये सच है ना। कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना, छोड़ो बेकार की बातों में कहीं बीत ना जाए रहना। कुछ तो लोग कहेंगे, लोगों का काम है कहना।
So with this musical note, we would see off the Honourable Minister. I would request the President of the Bengal Chamber to please present him tokens of appreciation, and I would request Mr. Ravindra Chamaria, Chairman of Infinity Group, to please join us on the dais. Maybe we should have a group photo.
So we'll come to the last question of the panel. We'll start now with you, Mr. Joshi. Sorry for, that was for a cause, so sorry I had to interrupt you.
No, sir, no issues.
Yeah, please. So, the last question is, I wouldn't say what is the biggest failure you have had, but I'll put it this way. If you were to tell your younger self, most of you have been years in investing, if you were to tell your younger self, what is something you would do better at that time, what would that be? Or what you could have done better at that time?
So I started climbing, in a high-profile job all my life, other than starting period, as all youngsters start. And when you are in a well-paid job, it's very difficult to take some decision. I think the only thing I would tell people, especially in current timing, I took too much time to decide that I want to get started at the age of 38, right? If I can go back, I would like to do that at the age of 28. Thank you. Get started.
I don't, okay, so without sounding like everything is perfect, but honestly I don't think I would have changed anything. Because I took, and in fact that's something that I would recommend anyone who wants to eventually become an investor or a successful founder, is take as many risks as you can in life as early as possible. Right? So when I was in college, I was the first child in 4 generations, 5 generations to actually leave the country to go study abroad. And then after that, when I was in college, I ran 3 businesses out of my dorm room. I used to buy phones from eBay and sell them, because in the US, if you buy phones on contract, if you break your phone, then the replacement phone is extremely expensive. So I used to find people on eBay who were selling phones they did not want and then sell them to people in the local area. I worked in a gas station, I worked in a mobile phone store, I sold jewelry for 3 years, 3 Christmases straight. And then obviously I did door-to-door sales after graduating with a double degree. My dad was not a very happy man to know that his son would be knocking on doors wearing, I was wearing shorts and a polo shirt, and with a binder I used to walk around all day long. I don't have any feeling in this knuckle, I've knocked on so many doors. And then I took the opportunity and leapt into becoming a founder. So I think all of these things led to where I am today, right? The only maybe small regret I would say that I have in life is that I did not institutionalize myself early enough. I think I waited an extra 3 years to come up to become a fund, and that I think I missed maybe the opportunity to today maybe be on my 6th or 7th fund versus being on my 4th fund, and that probably a bit thing that got me concerned, but I think if I change any element, what I've done so far, it would probably change the result, and that's why I'm happy where I'm at today. I would not be sitting in this chair possibly. So, thank you.
Now I finally get what Anil says, that speaking of that, Anil is always a tough one, right? But yeah, I mean, I think, very, very similar to what Anil is speaking about, right? I don't actually regret anything that's been my journey. I used to unlock iPhones in India for a living. वो अलग बात है, हम दोनों की ये जो story है ना, इसमें we're telling you the part that we did the struggle. We're not telling you the part that we did the struggle for the Ayashi money that we wanted to blow up on random other things. So that's the part which you guys are missing out on. I'm sure. अब ये मत बोलना तो college fees पे क्या उसने?
Last year of college with the mobile phone business. So, very happy with that.
So no, but I think essentially the one regret that I definitely have, and having come to sort of seeing that ecosystem very closely now, I'm also on this side of the table because I teach venture capital at NMIMS. Is going to an Ivy League college. I think that's one thing which I definitely missed out on, and I wish I was aware enough early on in my life so that I could have charted that route. All 3 of us are non-Ivy Leaguers who basically would not actually get a job at a large venture capital fund, right? Even if we applied today, which is why we went out and created our own entrepreneurial journeys. In a way, it's actually worked out well. Had we taken those Ivy League degrees, we probably would have been principal partners somewhere else, but not really having our own funds. But I think that ecosystem, that connect that you have when you are coming out of, say, even IIT Bombay or for that matter Chicago Booth or any of the larger B schools, that is something which I sorely miss, and I have capitalized on it by making friends who've in turn opened up that network. But if there's one thing I would change, and I think for anyone who's on the younger side of early 20s, do keep in mind that education from a good B school, education from a good engineering college, it's not just about getting that degree, but it's also about the alum network that you're able to get. So yeah, that's my opinion. Anil, you want to say something?
I was just resonating. I was not allowed to enter in Hotel Taj. I built Hotel Taj. Right? That's saying.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all of us had to build our own Hotel Tajes, right? Because we were not allowed that.
So we build our own fund.
So Deepak, I would call him Mr. Hercule Poirot for his moustaches. Those of you who are fans of Agatha Christie like me. So now that the minister mentioned it, I was wondering what was standing out, the Hercule Poirot thing. So what would be your 2 cents on what you would have done differently?
I think the mistake I realized pretty late in life was over-analysis or overthinking is not good. Sometimes you just need to take a leap of faith based on your gut feel. And when I was investing early enough, I used to look too deep, which led to a lot of opportunities which I really regret missing on now. But once I realized it, I started hanging out with people like Anil, Mohit and Anirudh, more smarter than me, and latch on to their thought processes and learn from them. So that's the only regret I have. Otherwise, I won't change anything where I am or what I've done up till now.
So Hari, you can speak for Manipal.
I'll speak for myself. The question is on me. Unlike all the 3 guests on the other side, we come from a typical 9-to-5 job. Salary should come on 31st. I've been there for 3 generations, expecting monthly paychecks. And to be careful is good. Not to take risks is what we have been ingrained with. And therefore, today when I look at many of the youngsters who have taken challenging tasks, yesterday we were with a group of people. Every day I meet youngsters who are at least half the age, and the energy that they show actually puts me to shame. Saying that, shit, why did I not do something like this when I did have the energy and the time? But somewhere we have to break this mindset, this thinking that precaution is very important, and therefore don't take that risk. I think that has shifted and will shift in the coming generations. So I would, going by a personal example, way back in 2009 when my son was doing his engineering, he had conceived of the Uber for trucks way back at that point of time. And as usual, typical middle class parents say, hey, come on, finish your engineering, then go and do worked in Ashok Leyland, and then finally now when that product has become a reality, I had of course taken the courage to tell him sorry and misled you. But I think the key is to allow our children and the youngsters who are here who are venturing out to take that risk, but take a calculated risk. Every risk cannot be blindly taken. Know your facts well, know what your decision, as Anirudh mentioned, it has to fulfill a need. Take that risk of venturing into a product or a service which meets a need. I think then success will follow. It will go through its song and dance, but it will happen. So don't miss the bus is my learning. Today I can sit back and say, sorry, I did not do it, but my suggestion would be just take the plunge, do it, knowing well what the risks are, and then things will follow in place.
So, thank you to the panel. Now, I will wear my technology hat because the one thing which I do good is technology. And I'll answer the 3 questions in a minute. The first is, what do I look for? Because Hari has sent me to look at various organizations, people, especially on the technology portion. And to the budding entrepreneurs in this audience, you may have the best technology, but please be aware that the investor is far sharper than you. And he gets people like me who have done huge IT projects to sort of look into it, go break it, and we are not kind. Okay? And we go into lines of code, etc., etc. So be very, very clear about your technology, please. because I see a lot of people trying to use buzzwords, get down to actual technology that will work. I've seen many people coming up with technology which just will not work and people have just used a buzzword. Let me answer the second question, the provenance matter. From a technology perspective, sometimes yes, because if you look at AI, generative AI, foundation models, there are only very few people. In fact, I was taking a course as a faculty development course for people, and it does matter where you get your initial technologies from, especially if you are in a high technology space. Number three, what I would like to do differently, especially if you are in technology, schools matter. So I have had the opportunity to work under Dr. Vishal Sikka, who was my CEO for some time. So I've seen that his PhD from Stanford elevated him to a higher level. So while Ivy League, well, you said that, but if you are going to be a technologist, make sure you get a minimum of a master's from a very good international university, which includes IITs and IISc, or at the best case a doctorate. Because without that, that teaches you quite a bit. So these are my three answers. Thank you to my panel, thank you to the audience. We will take the questions during lunch because I think we are running very late, am I right? Yeah, so I would request the audience to join, the panel members to stick around for lunch. Lunch is not too far away, and so that they can interact with the others. Since the minister had to go, we had to squeeze in that schedule, and I think we will be eating into the other panel's time already. But if you could wait, I think that would be great. Angana, back to you.
Thank you. I would request Mr. Deepak Daftari, as the mentor of the IT Entrepreneurs and E-Commerce Committee, to please present tokens of our appreciation to the co-panelists and the moderator. And I will request Mr. S. Radhakrishnan, former president of the Bengal Chamber and president and CEO of Infinity, to please join us in the dais and please present token of our appreciation to Deepak. Deepak, you're very much ours, but this is our, gesture to thank you for the time and effort you have put behind, curating this show. Thank you. So we have the keynote speaker of the, inaugural session, Mr.